Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we are back live together, the three of us, for the first time in 2 weeks. Seems like an age since we was live. Life has just got in the way over the last couple of weeks. I know for myself, I've been super busy, but it's good to see you guys. Alex, how have you been?
Good. I've gotten to watch a few things. In addition to the Spider-Verse movie, finally got to see the Super Mario's brother movie. So that was pretty awesome. I just butchered the name, but yeah, I was really surprised. I really enjoyed that movie, and no surprise that movie has done so well at the box office, I think. So,
Excellent. Jarian, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Been busy. Summer's in full effect. Kids' activities, camps, that kind of stuff. My wife changed her role at her job, so I've been doing a lot of the juggling at home with the kids. Went and saw Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Saw that on Friday with my son. I can say that's probably one of my more favorable live-action Transformers movies.
I've heard lots of good things about it. That it kind of avoids some of the silliness and gets back to doing what the very first one I think did quite well. I thought the first one was decent.
I would still say it was better than that. Because first of all, it's in the same universe as Bumblebee movie. Second of all, that Michael Bay one did Unicron very bad. In the Rise of the Beast, they did proper Unicron. I won't go in more to it. I wish they would have shown more of Unicron in different forms, but what they showed, even the sounds from, like, if you saw the cartoon movie, the sounds when you hear them talking to Unicron and some of the things he does in that music, they even got some of that stuff in there too. So it was actually really good. Rise of the Beast.
Decent. Yeah, I was going to get myself on to see a double today after watching Across the Spider-Verse, but couldn't manage it in the end, and that was going to be the double. But I will get there eventually to see that one.
I'll say one thing: when you watch Rise of the Beast, pay very close attention at the very end of the movie.
Okay.
And I'll say one more thing: Anthony Ramos is the main character in the film. I can't wait to see him Ironheart because he did a great job in Rise of the Beast. So
that's cool.
Awesome. Well, aside from eventually watching Across the Spider-Verse, which is one of the reasons why I've been delaying this show. I've watched all the Black Mirror episodes. There's a new season of Black Mirror that's come out, and I don't know if I know that Alex, you've watched some of the previous seasons. I don't know, Jarian, if
I've seen them all. I love that show. I mean, it's always like such a weird kind of like twist on like everything. It's like a mind-bending kind of show,
Yeah, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and saying about movies and that we don't generally get twists in movies like we did. There was a whole period of time where, I think like the late 90s, early 2000s, it was like every other movie had a big twist in it. And I really enjoy a twist when done well. I really enjoy that twist. But I don't think that we've had good twists in movies for a long time. So it's nice to have Black Mirror back because they, like you said, Alex, they do that. They just switch it up on you instantly.
I feel like catch the latest season still. I watched all of them, but I need to watch the latest season still.
I feel like the era of the twist was like around the time of The Sixth Sense when you would go and like watch a movie. The Sixth Sense, I think, had one of the biggest twists out of like any movie, I think, during that time. And it still sticks with me to this day. So,
Yeah, definitely. The new series is excellent, actually. I say the new series is excellent. The first half of it is really cool. I like the first couple of episodes. The first episode is brilliant. Joan is awful. Is fantastic. I really like the second two episodes. The last two go a little bit, probably more sort of supernatural, I guess.
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, they do. Yeah, and I didn't mind. But it wasn't what I was expecting from Black Mirror. Black Mirror, I mean, that's Black Mirror, isn't it? Your phone screen. That's what that's what the Black Mirror is referring to. The sort of the screen that's off.
It's always technology based.
Technology, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. So they sort of sway away from that on the last 2 episodes a little bit. They're still good. But different and not what you'd expect from a Black Mirror episode. But yeah, decent nonetheless.
From the chat here, I'm only on season 3 of Black Mirror. I enjoyed White Bear, by the way, Andy.
Oh, that must be Jamie, because I recommended White Bear to him the other day. Yeah, that's excellent. That's the one where everyone's walking around recording the girl on the phone, Alex, and she's been a part of that thing that happens. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody that hasn't seen them, because you can ruin them, can't you? And that's it. But yeah, so we've got like I said, part of the reason we hadn't come on live for a little while is because I was waiting to catch up to go and watch Across the Spider-Verse, but literally just been back a couple of hours from watching it. So we're going to delve into Across the Spider-Verse. I think we'll probably have some slightly varying opinions. I think we'll have lots in common about what we liked about the movie. But Alex, what did you think of this movie? Where what was your thoughts?
Man, I thought this was probably one of the most solid Spider-Man movies I've ever seen. And I'm a big fan of Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire. That's always been that train fight scene. I love that. That's always been my top tier Spider-Man movie. And not to say that the first Into the Spider-Verse was worse than this, because it's a great extension of the first movie. But it builds really well on the first movie, connects a lot of things to the first movie. As a sequel to a first movie, I think this is one of the most solid sequels I've ever seen, because it's the story is just so well written. It was so great. And I felt it was a very different Spider-Man story that did a good job of being different and sticking to what was in the first movie and not going too far off the rails with it. So
yeah, I think the story was like you said, it's got that really rich connections to the first movie, and I think it does that very well. It definitely does feel like there was an idea, running through the 2 movies, and what will be a third one as well. It seems like there was an idea running through those 3 movies, and that they haven't just kind of. I mean, maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe they didn't have this plan to write a sequel, but it seems like they did, which is always nice, isn't it? It's like they've not just kind of tagged this on to the end. This is an integral part. This is the second part of this story. Yeah. And I thought the characters were all excellent as well.
Definitely. And I felt like watching this movie, in the first movie, it's kind of this thing where Miles kind of falls into this situation of being Spider-Man. It kind of feels like. And in this movie, it's hey, you weren't really supposed to be the one that was supposed to be Spider-Man. And it's I love that line where he's on the train and he's everybody keeps telling me what I've got to do. Nah, I'm just going to do this my own way. And I love that, because that's just such a great line in this movie. And it's even though he's not supposed to be a Spider-Man, that they kind of give you this idea, he lures everybody out of the headquarters and then goes right back. And it's just the most Spider-Man thing ever. Yep. And I was just man, that's so awesome. I love that,
I love that whole like you said, that line that he uses there. He said, everyone's telling me who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be. But that's typical of a 15, 16-year-old boy, isn't it? Everyone's saying to 15, 16-year-old boys, you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and you've got to get a job, or you've got to go to college, or you've got to grow up, or get a different girlfriend, or wear your clothes different, or whatever it is. And people are always telling you what to do. And actually that reflected in his kind of Spider-Man traits, didn't it? Yeah. Jaren, what was your sort of initial thoughts on it?
I thought it was great. It didn't have any of the sequel lull that's when you see in sequels that they kind of don't know how to connect the first 2. You didn't get any of that. It was definitely a continuation of the Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse story, and even callbacks to certain things that weren't answered in the first film. They actually took care of that in the beginning. I felt they really rounded out Gwen's story, Spider-Gwen story, because we knew a little bit about her story, but we didn't know a lot about her story, and I felt they did that well. Also, too, this was supposed to be this movie was broken into 2 parts, right? They were supposed to be part 1, part 2, and they called it Beyond the Spider-Verse. So far is this could top my favorite trilogy over Guardians trilogy, just for the fact that this sequel was done so well. All they have to do in the third one is complete the story and stick the landing, and it's probably going to be one of the best trilogies out there, comic book wise, because of how well they've done the second film. You know, even the connections, and then the whole time, like, okay, where's the team from the first movie? You know, where, you know, besides Spider-Gwen, where's the rest of them, and Ben B. Parker, or not
Peter
Ben
B.
B. Parker, Peter B. Parker, yeah, Peter B. Parker, and Gwen. Where's the rest of the team that we saw from the first one? And then we saw glimpses of them, and then we saw, you know, after that amazing twist. We talked about twist here at the beginning of the show. They had amazing twist at the end where, you know, he went to the proper universe the spider came from, not his universe, and we saw what happens when, you know, again, this is gonna be a big spoiler if you haven't seen it. I'm sorry, but we're what, 3 weeks in now, where there's no Spider-Man in the universe that spider that bit him came from, and what happens because of that, and then you're kind of seeing, it's almost like that Black Mirror moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're looking face to face with another Miles Morales, but guess what? He's not Spider-Man. He is basically the Prowler. So,
and they give you that kind of like vibe, at least I feel this way, that after watching it, it's like that Miles was supposed to be the one that was bit by the spider. And another Miles got bit, so this one becomes like evil and becomes like the Prowler, the one that probably should have been bit from that universe. And so I feel like, you know, that's going to be it. I loved how they did the Spot too, because the Spot, like, they tie him to the multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
You know, at the beginning of the movie, he's like, you know, I brought the spider here that bit you. And it's kind of like that, like where the villain and the hero have their origins sort of tied to one another. I love how they did that.
But also, too, in the first movie where he's running through and getting with Doc Ock in that fight scene and all that kind of stuff, where he's throwing things at their scientists, that's where the Spot was created pretty much in that scene. He was there because he threw something at him. And then later on, because, and because the whole Collider stuff blowing up, that's how the Spot got created. So that was a great tie-in to the first movie.
It was. I quite liked, actually, the villain, the Spot, because he wasn't a villain really at first, was he? I know he kind of was a villain, and he wanted to be the villain, but he wasn't, was he? Really, he sort of seemed fairly harmless. He was a nice guy. He was even sort of almost friendly with Miles at first, but then they developed him into this, like, he's going to kill Miles' dad. You know, this is going to be huge, and he's, you know, he sort of got worse and worse as the movie went on, and he became more dislikable in a good way, in a movie way, you know. So yeah, I think they developed him really nicely.
I felt like as a villain, he was sort of dislodged after that line of like where he says something to Miles and Miles responds, "You're just another villain of the week," kind of type of deal. And it was like that moment where the villain's like, "I'm not taken seriously." And then even at the one point later on in the movie where he's getting ready to go into that like particle accelerator or whatever in that other universe, all the Spider-Men are like literally like webbed to one another and holding each other back and everything and holding him back. And they're like, "We take you seriously now. Like, we get it." And he's like, "Well, it's too late," basically, you know, and he just goes
you've lost your chance. You've lost your chance. I'm evil now. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Nobody was even Miles wasn't really actually, that's a really good point. Miles wasn't taking him seriously at the beginning at all. Like you said, he was villain of the week. And at the end, he's going to kill his dad, and he's the worst person in the world. Just go. And that's actually, and again, that's actually quite indicative of a 15-year-old boy as well. They don't take their situation seriously. You know, they don't really, they can't see the long-term effects of some of their decisions or some of their attitudes toward things. Okay, so let's talk about some of the additional characters in the movie. The character we spoke about Miles, we spoke about Gwen. Absolutely right, Jaron. They fleshed out her character. Go on.
But the one great thing about Gwen too, we saw that the Peter in her universe became the Lizard, and she killed him. That was a great tie-in to do that. Yeah,
that for me was a better twist than the twist at the end. I absolutely loved that. I thought that just made me go, "Oh,
my jaw dropped when I saw that."
Mine,
you know, like I was like, "Wow!" Like, you know,
totally, because that's something that we've known from the 15th minute of the first one. You know, we didn't know that, and she's been living with that the whole time, and that's really cool to sort of now go back and think of her character in the first movie and who she is, and understand that that's what she's been living with. That I thought that was excellent. What a great little bit of writing that was. Really, really cool.
And back on Miles real quick too. We actually got that connection from Spider-Man: Homecoming about the uncle, with Childish Gambino, Donald Glover. Yes, and we saw that little him in there, that he's actually in Prowler suit, is a Prowler in that universe. So if they don't bring him back when they do a live action Miles Morales film, they're missing a huge opportunity there, because you've already gone from Homecoming to Spider-Verse. Now you got to take that connection back into the MCU.
Well, and this also had references to like every Spider-Man in it too. You know, even the MCU Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, so it was very interesting. But one of the things that I really liked about this movie is how there's like intersections for every Spider-Man, where they lose like a uncle or like a father figure. The police captain or the police officer always dies. There's like always these certain things that are like check boxes to every Spider-Man story. And it's almost like intersections between different universes and things. And I liked how they explained that.
The canon events, but basically that's happening. But then you saw that basically Spider-Man 2099, Miguel basically caused an incursion, because he went to another universe to live out where he lost his daughter and his. He went to another universe where she still was, and basically caused that universe to collapse. So you kind of have the canon event of that person dying, but then also too, if they can't fix something, or the canon event doesn't happen, or if you do something to cause problems, then basically you get an incursion like Miguel caused. Or am I reading that wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And so as you know, I'm a big Walking Dead fan, and across the country, across the United States, they in the different shows, they call the zombies something different in each state. And I would hazard a guess that these anomalies that are happening, these multiversal anomalies, incursions, canon events, I think we've heard them called something else as well. I'm sure there was another name that have been referred to by, but I reckon they're the same thing. They're just someone's just got a different name for them, But no, I really like that. Though that cameo, that's got to be one of the best cameos that I think I've seen for a long time. That Donald Glover cameo, that was just like, wow, that was brilliant. I was a little bit disappointed. I know we got the little link to Tom Holland and the MCU but we had that in the trailer, didn't we? We had that in the trailer. I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get any more. I was hoping that we might see something else, like another little scene, but.
Well, that one scene where it's got a Spider-Man pulling two things together, I felt like it was him emulating the ship, him pulling the ship together and stuff like that. I mean, I honestly felt like one of the most interesting things about this is it's kind of setting up Spider-Man 2099 to be kind of like in a villainous kind of perspective, because like I was thinking about it while watching it, and I was like, Spider-Man 2099 is kind of like at the end of the Spider-Man timeline. Like he's going to be one of the last Spider-Man. Yeah. So he probably he's like, if all these other ones are going to be from like the early 2000s, 2020, whatever. And then he's like 2099. So maybe he knows something that all of them don't know,
Yeah. I wonder if that's going to get fleshed out in the next film. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's also got that, it's all my responsibility. It's all I'm in control. I don't mean it like that, but it's down to me. I've got to sort it out. That kind of, he's got a complex where he has to solve everything. He's in everybody, nobody else is taking it seriously, and he can't trust anybody, and he's the one that's got to sort it all out. So I think he's probably driven himself a little bit crazy.
And I mean, they started off when he made his appearance, when he's fighting with Gwen. He does that thing where I think he grabs the vulture and he spits out like the fangs, like he's getting ready to bite him. And I love that scene because like I was seeing people talk about it and they're like, what? He's like a vampire on the internet and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like the idea. This one's like more like animalistic. Yeah. Like he's got the spider fangs almost, like that's kind of what Spider-Man 2099 is. But I loved how people were like, he's like a vampire in this,
So some of the other characters, so Spider-Punk, Hobie,
and stole the show.
the Indian Spider-Man.
Yep.
Was great.
That was awesome. Yeah. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, I did. Great. It looked superb, didn't he? Really visually looked great. His character,
The way
was
he
brilliant.
webs would like swing webs and stuff like that and swing around, it was just so interesting. It's so different than like all the other Spider-Man, you know?
Well, just speaking on looks
Yeah.
too, just the animation across the different Spider-Man, right? In the film, how some of the different animation they had, like Scarlet Spider, for example, his animation, that kind of stuff. So they did really a good job of changing subtle things and how they appeared to make each Spider-Man stand out in this film.
I really liked Hobie, the Spider-Punk, but my biggest issue was there was sometimes when his like they were doing that weird thing with like the animation for him where he would just change colors randomly and stuff like that. And there was like a couple times where it would like hurt my eyes like looking at it, you know. And I was just like,
here's one of my complaints about the movie, and it's not just that particular moment. It was almost too stylized at certain points. You know, it was like, look, they was like, look how cool we can be. We're going to be so like hyper. You know, it just, for me, it just went beyond what. There was so much going on, like you said, Alex. That there was that scenes with Spider-Punk where it's like, what's going on? You know, it was just too much at points, and it made me kind of feel exactly like what you said, a little bit like, oh, like I'm like that. Where the first one didn't do that. It was nice and subtle. You did get those different styles for the different Spider-Men, and it was there and you could recognize it, but it wasn't offensive. Where I felt like there was points in this movie where it was kind of offensive to my senses at certain points, where I was like, there's too much going on. But maybe that's because I'm old. I don't know.
Old manuals animation. I'm just kidding.
There was the old Spider-Man in there. Did you see what he said? He sort of he swung in and said something to Miles and sort of went to stop it. He went, "Oh wait, my back," because he was the old Spider-Man from like the old cartoons, the old sort of 60s cartoons. Well, that was quite funny. But yeah, there were so many little nods and characters in there, and yeah, we saw you know, the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's when they was talking about losing Uncle Ben, which was a really cool moment as well. But yeah, so many cool little side characters, and I can't wait to actually get that on, you know, the television at home where I can just pause it and stop, because there was a point where they brought up loads of little name things and it just went so quickly there was just no way of seeing what they were. So it'd be great to see all of these different Spider-Men.
I felt like the humor was like so well balanced in this movie too, by the way. Just want to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, there was a couple of really funny moments, like you said, the what was probably an homage to Tom Holland holding the boat together. That was quite comical. I wish they never showed us that scene where they got the Spider-Man talking to the doctor, to the psychologist. That was so funny. I thought that was hilarious in the trailer. I would love to have seen that in the movie. But that was such a funny line. Oh, let me guess, he died. It's so patronizing, you know, really funny. But yeah, do you know what? I like the comedy, but I didn't find it as funny as the first one.
Yeah,
I thought the first one was funnier.
I can see that.
I did like it. I did like the comedy. I didn't dislike it at all. But I
think this one had a more serious tone than the first one.
Probably.
Too. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I got a really good chuckle out of that scene where Spider-Man 2099 is like calling out to everybody, and he's like, "Get Spider-Man now!" And everybody's just like pointing at each other, like this one, and then they're like, "Miles Morales, Miles Morales!" You know, like, it's just so funny. And it's just like everybody's like, "Which one? Like, which one do we get?"
Yeah, that was cool. My one other complaint as well. I got two complaints. One, it was, like I said, I thought at points it was overstyled. But the other point was the first one's soundtrack. Now, I'm not talking about the music and the sound effects, because I thought the sound effects in this movie were excellent. I absolutely loved it. It's really dramatic, and I thought the score was good. But in regards to songs, the first one, the songs were brilliant. Like, I remember all the songs. It's a great album almost. This one, I don't actually remember there being any songs. It was almost more just music. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like it played less of a part in this movie because this movie was like, I feel like kind of the centerpiece to the story. So it was like music took the back seat. So maybe we'll see some more music in Beyond the Spider-Verse, like as things kind of move towards like a more happy note, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Like Jarian said with the comedy, this movie was probably more serious. That's a fair point. I hadn't considered that. So that's a fair point. Yeah.
I also wonder too if we're gonna see more of Maguire and Garfield and Tom Holland in this next third installment, because the producers or the creators said that the third film is the final film. There's not going to be a fourth film. So
and maybe that is where because there is rumors, isn't there, of live action Miles. Maybe that's where they take him into live action
crossovers.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it is called Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
beyond animation. And who knows?
I want to call out, speaking of other universes too, one of the coolest things in this movie was the Lego universe.
Yes.
But not just because there was Lego universe, how it came together. So this was done by a 14-year-old boy, Preston Mutanga. He remade the trailer in Lego. And so they were so impressed with him making the whole trailer in Lego style that they basically had him do the Lego universe in the film for them. So that was like one of the coolest things about this film was that Lego universe, a 14-year-old.
I'm pretty sure they used part of like the dialogue from the first Spider-Man movie with Jay Jonah, because it's like Spider-Man's walking through the office and like Jay Jonah's like yelling at Peter Parker or whatever. And it was just like, I like literally saw that scene in my head from Jay Jonah, like all the way back in the early 2000s. And I was like, dude, that is so funny. Like,
and speaking of that though, real quick though, so J. Jonah Jameson is voiced in every universe in the Spider-Verse and even outside by J.K. Simmons. So even in Gwen's universe, it was him. So he's basically the same person in every universe.
Brilliant. They that Lego universe as well was absolutely spot on with Lego. The Lego movies. You know, he was making the noise. He's like whip, whip, whip. I thought that was brilliant. I mean, the Lego movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's absolutely hilarious, and it is just quality all round. You know, the comedy in that movie is just beyond. Yeah, it's just brilliant, and I love seeing that universe. It gave me a really big chuckle. So yeah, that was really cool.
One of my favorite parts was when they go to Spider-Gwen's universe. Like you hear Jay Jonah in the background of one scene, and he's screaming, "Peter Parker was an innocent boy," or something like that. And it's just like such a weird thing to me, because I was like, you know, he always hates Spider-Man, so it's such a weird reverse for him to be like talking about Peter Parker in a positive light, and then he always hates Spider. It's just so funny, you know.
So from the chat here, they're basically saying that J. Jonah Jameson is a Nexus beam in the Spider universe. It could be same person, you know. So
for sure. So, I mean, I know we've kind of touched on it briefly. Where do we think the third movie's going?
I'm excited to see the beginning of the third movie, how this plays out, because I want to see, because you know, with every Spider-Man, they did that backstory, right? They need to come in with a third movie Beyond the Spider-Verse, doing Miles Morales as the Prowler's backstory, right? Because there was a lot of things going on there, you know, and then them coming face to face, him with the fro, that Miles with the cornrows, the braids, but then also too in the background, they're saying basically the Sinister Six cartel runs that universe. So I want to see that whole backstory and how that comes into play, and then, you know, I wonder, after we get through that, if they're going to become kind of frenemies, right? You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing, and not actually be after each other, you know, being enemies, and that maybe he recruits that Miles Morales Prowler to be on that new team that has the team from the first film, plus a few more characters from the new film. So,
yeah, I honestly feel like in the third movie, we're probably going to see Spider-Man 2099 is probably partly to blame for what's happened with the wrong Miles Morales getting the powers kind of type of thing. I know that they kind of tied that to Kingpin firing up the particle accelerator in the first movie, but I feel like, you know, like he knew that this was a mistake, that like that version of Miles wasn't supposed to have it, and that spider was from another universe that bit him. So it's kind of, it puts Miles Morales kind of like in a different category than all the other Spider-Men. And if you notice, like Miles Morales' powers are a little bit different than everybody else's. He's got like the venom shocks,
invisibility.
He can go invisible. It almost seems like there was something special about that spider that bit him. and like more than what was already before. So I'm kind of like leaning this way that we're going to find out that like maybe Spider-Man 2099 has crossed paths with this Miles before, and this Miles is aware of he was like bitten or not bitten by the spider like he was supposed to. And so now, you know, like right off the bat, you get some weird tension with his uncle when he is in Earth 42 or whatever. And he's like, you know, like, you took your dreadlocks out or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, yeah, I guess I got tired of them or whatever. And like in that moment, I was just like, dang, like he knows he's not the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they go into that scene. It almost feels like they're setting this up where we're going to get kind of like, I think you said, we're going to get an origin story for Prowler. We're going to see like how he kind of was not bitten, what happened after that, and how Miles became the Prowler in that universe and steps. And that's probably going to be, I feel like, the dark universe. That's going to be like the worst universe of all the Spider-Men. And it's like, it's because it's missing its Spider-Man, basically. And we're going to see kind of that play out a little bit. And I feel like maybe Miles saves his dad, but in saving his dad, maybe he loses his mom.
Yeah, I can see that.
And like, it's one of those things where he breaks the cycle, but he doesn't break the cycle. He still loses a parent. But we just saw Tom Holland lose Aunt May. So it wouldn't be, I don't think, like out of character for him to lose a mother figure. And, you know.
Yeah, the one thing, though, too, he already lost his Uncle Aaron in the first film. So he kind of already had that canon-style event in his universe. So I almost wonder if, does it have to be like the captain? Does it have to be the cop? Like you're saying, or could it be his mom? The other thing, too, with that dark universe, I wonder if they actually have a Kingpin. Or is the Prowler the Kingpin in that universe? Basically, that Kingpin person type character.
I think, like you said, Jarian, I think that'd be good. A little intro into that Prowler, that Miles Prowler version. But I think maybe he does save his dad. Maybe he then causes an incursion, or breaks the canon event, and that's what brings him over into the a live action universe.
Yeah.
Maybe he has to get. Maybe that's exactly what it is. It's an incursion. He gets pulled into one of our live action universes, and that's where he becomes a live action character. Because they're trying to save some characters, so trying to save some people, so they bring them into the live action world.
But they talk about in this movie that if you're not wearing those bands, then you'll eventually
that's
true.
So like that's been one of the things that I've been really curious about is how does this play in the future? And I was also really curious, like, how did Hobie leave his and then go back to his universe? Like that seemed like, did he just like take it off and eventually phase out of Gwen's and go back to his? Or?
He had that Rogue one too that he left for Gwen also.
Yeah, but
so
was
that
the same one?
He had a bootleg one, like a certain one, because it seemed like he had other tech that he could do it without the official ones from the Spider Society.
Okay.
The other thing too, I was thinking about is, even though Miles is from one universe, the spider that bit him is from another. How come he isn't constantly phasing or having problems in this story? Also, that kind of doesn't make as much sense to me, because you would think that spider biting him from the universe, he would have some of the phasing problems, and that since he doesn't, him going to other universes shouldn't be an issue for him. But it is. But if he gets put out in the live action universe, maybe that's how he survives without it, because he has that cross connection already. I don't know.
Maybe if his universe doesn't exist anymore, then he's kind of there's nothing to cross over to. So
that's a great point.
You're not going to blip if you're not going to glitch out if there's nowhere else for you to go back to.
Dunno.
And then if we do have a live action Miles Morales, who do you guys think should play him?
I'm not too familiar, to be totally honest. I don't really know. I did at one point like the lad who was in one of the new Jurassic Park movies. I can't remember what his name was, but I did like him. There was also a lad that was in an episode of SWAT that I thought would be really cool for Miles, but I'm not sure he's a. But then again, I don't suppose they need a big, star actor. But the lad that was in Jurassic World, I can't remember his name. I'll have to find it out. But I think he'd be too old now.
Okay.
I kind of like from Stranger Things, that kid Caleb McLaughlin, I think is his name. I feel like he might eventually be too old, if they were to prolong it. But I mean, that's kind of the problem with the kids in Stranger Things is they're kind of getting too old to be kids in Stranger Things, you know? So that would be probably something that they would probably have to step on the gas, I feel like, for Miles Morales if they were going to make him like a live action Spider-Man. But yeah, I mean, Miles is kind of becoming an adult now, so he'll be 18 here soon. So maybe it's not unrealistic.
Yeah.
He's just young, you know, so he's not like a 15-year-old boy anymore. And they've kind of acknowledged that in this movie. So,
Justice Smith.
Okay.
I was thinking about. He's just been in Dungeons and Dragons as well.
Okay, yeah. He's also in the Pet Detective, the Pokemon movie then as well.
The Pokemon. Yes, that's
okay.
right. Yeah, that's the lad. But I think I think he's too old now. Even with Alex saying, you know, about that, it's a good point. But I still think this guy's he's 27. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be on the Caleb McLaughlin train. Like that was like my number one person. But I'm 100% now on Miles Brown playing him. Miles Brown is a teenager right now. He's like, I think he's like 16 or 17 years old. He's Afro-Latino, so he checks both of the things for Miles Morales. If you look at his background, you know, he basically, and he looks like Miles Morales too as well. If you see a picture of him, the haircut and everything looks like a Miles Morales. And if he's gonna get into that teenager stage, he's at that age. He can play him for a couple of years, a couple movies as he gets older and that kind of stuff. So I'm fully on the Miles Brown train. He's been on the TV show Blackish. He's been on a couple other things. But he's my number one pick right now to play Miles Morales in live action.
Awesome.
Cool. I think we've covered it.
Yep. So I have a couple of news bits to cover real quick about the movie. I talked about this being the third film being the last film. I talked about Preston Mutanga doing the excellent job of the Lego universe.
Yep.
The directors did talk about how the Prowler came together from Homecoming into this universe. Directors Kemp Powers, Joaquin Dos Santos, and Justin K. Thompson spoke with Variety about the vital cameo, how it came together, saying that it involved a very last-minute shoot to work with Glover's schedule. It was shot at a studio in New York. Chris Miller flew to be there in person, and Phil Lord and I were on video feed giving direction. We got it in at the 11th hour. As a matter of fact, even in the audience preview screenings, it was a little cardboard cutout of Donald Glover. So they didn't get the full experience in the preview screenings. We knew it was going to land, though, because the idea, it still got people geeked. Dos Santos added. That's when you know you have something. So yeah, that's how it came together. It's a very last minute thing, but they're able to get that in there. Let me scroll back up to my other Spider-Verse news because I have lots of notes from new stuff from us taking a small break. So we already know that Adam Sandberg, he did end up voicing Bill Riley, Scarlet Spider. It did have a great opening weekend. I had to double check the numbers, but last time I had notes for it, it was an 80 million opening weekend it was tracking for. I think it did more. I need to go back and look. The sequel won't be available for digital purchase until at least August at the earliest. I know they were saying that it was going to be in July. Pretty quick turnaround, but he came out and said, no, it's going to be August will be the earliest if it happens that early. The producers are teasing a live action Miles Morales movie, Spider-Woman movie, and also a Holland Spider-Man 4 movie. They tease us at the premiere of Across the Spider-Verse. Amy Pascal, the producer, says a Spider-Woman and live action Miles Morales movie are in the works. You'll see all of it during the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse premiere in Los Angeles. It's all happening. Producer Ave Arad teased the moviegoers will see a Spider-Man movie sooner than you expect. So I believe that's the movie that the female producer, she was married to Jason Sudeikis. Olivia Wilde's film. That film, I think that's the film that she's still working on, is a Spider-Woman film. Also says, I cannot tell you, but it's coming, he said. Pascal also said a fourth Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and Zendaya is still in the works, but the writer's strike has paused development. Are we going to make another movie? Of course we are, he said. We're in the process, but the writer's strike, nobody is working during the strike. We are all being supporters, and whenever they get themselves together, we'll get started. Sony boss Tom Rothman was very much more cagey about the future. He laughed, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. Amy Pascal further said there's plenty of room for both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and that will be a lot of movies to make about both Miles and Peter. She also reiterates that she wants to keep going with Tom Holland as the MCU Spider-Man. So, there's also going to be a Spider-Man 2 video game. It's going to arrive on PS5 October 20th, and as of Friday, it's on pre-order. It will take place about 10 months after the events of Miles Morales video game. So
Very cool.
You may go on to general news now, and then we can get to Secret Invasion.
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah.
Okay. Captain America New World Order is no more. It is now Captain America Brave New World. And when I first heard this, I kept thinking of
a whole new world.
Aladdin, the Aladdin movie. I kept thinking about that. But it'd be interesting to see how they do this. Because basically this might end up being like a Gamma world. We know, there's probably gonna be multiple Hulks in this movie. This could lead into World War Hulk, where we know we're getting the Spider Society. Seth Rollins from the WWE has been on set filming, and it's being reported that he'll be playing Cobra and has wrapped his filming for the movie. So that's Spider Society basically confirmed he's playing Cobra. Production
Serpent
also...
Society?
Yeah, Serpent Society, yeah.
Okay.
Production for the entire film should also be wrapping at the end of this month as well. So it seems like that film is staying on schedule with everything going on with the writer's strike.
Do we think that the Serpent Society are going to be like Hulks, or are they going to be just a regular organization? Or are they going to be...
If they have any kind of powers, like I could see them having some kind of low-level gamma powers. Like, I've long said that I think maybe that the experimentation with the Hulk's blood and that kind of stuff from the leader maybe created these beings, maybe they're not full on Serpent Society people yet. Maybe they just have the powers yet, and they're still kind of going through that process, like Blonsky did when he became Abomination. It'd be interesting to see at the end of the film if we actually have full on Serpent people.
I feel like that's why we got Blonsky, is because they wanted to kind of show us him again to remind us that he's still kind of lingering out there, and they can take blood from him. He took shots of the super soldier serum. He got the gamma treatment. So, he basically can kind of be tested on and use his blood as a way to kind of maybe create the Serpent Society or something.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's happening now. I think if you look at we just going back to the name change, it's exactly what I thought as well when I first heard the name change. But actually, when you do a little bit more digging into it, that the sort of the name or the phrase Brave New World has got some good history to it. And one of them is the Huxley book, Brave New World, that was written in the 30s. And they do a lot of genetic testing in that. And it's about manipulating genetics to create sort of the perfect human beings. And I think if we look at what the leader was trying to do, even back in Incredible Hulk, and what he probably was trying to do through She-Hulk TV show, and what he looks like he's going to do now, it seems like this Serpent Society group is that kind of genetic experiments with
first
the Hulk's
test
blood.
Run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first test run. They're going to be, and he's going to keep testing it, and then he's going to test on, General Ross, or General Ross is going to ask to be tested on and turn into the Red Hulk. But I think that is exactly where this is going.
Do you think he'll be asked to be tested on, or will they use this to save him? Because remember, he's had those heart issues. Yeah, this might be like a life-saving measure they give him.
Yeah,
and so forth. So yeah. And speaking of the Hulk too, guess what's now on Disney Plus? The Incredible Hulk is now out there. Yep, it's now on Disney Plus. And here's some fun facts that I was looking out there. So remember that deal with Paramount was basically they owned the solo movie rights for 15 years after the release date of the Incredible Hulk. Right. The Incredible Hulk came out on June 13th, 2008. The Incredible Hulk came on Disney Plus June 15th, 2023. Almost exactly 15 years to the date.
That's exactly what that was, wasn't it? Yeah, they run out with the rights from it. Yeah.
So makes you wonder what's going to happen next. Now that we're getting Sentries supposedly and Thunderbolt, if we can actually get a proper World War Hulk.
World War Hulk. Yeah. Hopefully
movie now.
Hopefully they'll twist this whole Hulk thing now.
Yep.
And they'll twist it away from this sort of comedy Hulk that we've had over the last, comedy Hulks, should we say, over the last. Not that I've particularly minded some of it. Some of it's not been great, but I haven't minded all of it. But yeah, hopefully they'll twist that and we'll get this kind of Savage Hulk back. Yeah,
hopefully
They
we'll
just need to
get
have
a
them
tweaked
lose control.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a tweaked Scar as well from what we saw at the end of She-Hulk. From the chat here, someone goes, they watched this afternoon. I'm gonna guess that's Incredible Hulk because we were talking about that. Fantastic Four. So Vanessa Kirby has made comments because she's in the new Mission Impossible movie. She has made comments about her rumored to play Susan Storm. She addressed the rumors saying, "Oh yes, I heard about those rumors." But then Palm Clementif, who plays Mantis in the MCU, is also her co-star in the new film Mission Impossible, was sitting beside Kirby and interjected during the interview and says, basically says, she heard the rumors. She's kind of interjecting in that. She says it'll be an honor. Kirby says that doesn't tell us much, but isn't a denial or an outright claim of ignorance. It does suggest she be game to play Sue Storm if it arises, but she remains straight faced in the interview. So no confirm, no denial. She just said it'll be an honor. But Palm Clementif, who's in there, said that she was excited about the prospect, telling Kirby that they could work together. So, because if they go with a cosmic, story with Fantastic Four, they do a more cosmic story with with Mantis, like from the comics, they could have crossed paths in the MCU.
Sure.
So that's interesting that she didn't confirm or deny, even though all the smoke right now is on Margot Robbie playing Sue Storm. So we'll see. Scarlett Johansson did talk about her Marvel Mystery Project. That's been rumored for a while. She said, yes, it's still happening, but not currently because nothing is happening right now. We are all sort of in this holding pattern as we wait out the writer's strike and potentially our own guild strike and so forth and so on and so forth. So she mentioned there's a possible guild strike. That's the Actors Guild. So, yeah, that's something to keep an eye on as well. Mephisto news. This was coming out here as a reported rumor going around that he's the buyer of the Avengers Tower in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So it's not the Baxter Building, it's not Osborn or Oscorp. It's not something else. That he could be the buyer of the Stark Building in Homecoming. Furthermore, the rumor says that in Ironheart he'll be in a business attire humanoid individual with his comic accurate demonic form, appearing only in a few parts of the show. They also said that he will be inspired by the show Lucifer. So,
right.
You know what they need to do? They need to just make Mephisto the owner of Roxxon.
Yeah.
And that would just be like in the back of the MCU this whole time since Iron Man, and everybody would be like, wow. Like that would be kind of a weird kind of twist. And
like Roxxon on the building.
Yeah. Like the company. Cool. Like it's just like Mephisto. Because like I've always kind of pictured Mephisto as like a crossroads demon who's always out here just messing with the mortals and wheeling and dealing, so like I mean
they could have Roxxon as that. It's been a company, it's been a player for thousands of years, and it's kind of evolved over thousands of years. It was called something different,
like the Rox Cart thing we saw in Loki. It's kind of cool too. What if it also could be Rox Cart's corporate headquarters, the building instead too as well, and that twist like we saw in Loki. So awesome. They could do some kind of thing and that kind of stuff, which I'm hoping, because if we're gonna get more build on Roxxon in the MCU, that means at some point hopefully we'll get Cloak and Dagger. So so more Ironheart news. Angie White and Matthew James Elam have joined the cast. Reportedly, Reagan Aaliyah is playing Zelma Stanton. So Zelma Stanton is a magic user. She was part of Strange's school. Strange Academy.
Okay.
We'll meet her mom before we actually meet Zelma, though. So we'll see Mrs. Stanton before we see Zelma. She will also sport a similar look to the comics. So, and basically in the comics, she was an apprentice and she was the Sanctum's librarian. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see, especially with the hood. So we're gonna have those magical elements in this. Mephisto, the hood. I wonder if she'll be on her own in this when we first see her, still kind of coming into her own, or if she'll already have any ties to Strange or the Strange Academy. So I'm interested to see. Arnold Schwarzenegger said he is open to join the MCU in an interview with Men's Health magazine. He says if the role is done right.
What role?
I know. Too bad they don't have the rights to Conan. Him being like an old man Conan You know, being in this, that would be a great way to do it because since he played Conan in those movies, would be a great way to do that. But they don't have the rights to Conan anymore, so. It looks like X-Men 97 will release on January 3rd, 2024, possibly. That's what the U.S. Copyright Office has set for the date for the series. So
interesting date, isn't it?
Yeah.
January the 3rd.
Echo News. Reportedly, Echo will show Maya's rise as the leader of the Tracksuit Mafia through flashbacks, being trained personally by Fisk on Sunday dinners. So, and maybe that's part of the reason why it's going to be a binge part, because we're going to have, some ways to catch us up, and then maybe like the finale will be, or the last couple episodes will be, or just even flashbacks, if we'll have the whole story like a, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
They're leaning really hard on like intertwining her story with Kingpin.
Yep.
Like it seems like they're going to continue what they did in Hawkeye with that and just keep going.
Yeah. The trailer will reportedly be shown during San Diego Comic-Con,
which is
also is this summer, isn't it? Like July, isn't it? July? I think it's next month. Yeah, or then this month or next month. I'll
have a quick look.
Okay. Deadpool 3 news, and this is some big news here. Reportedly, Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman, won't be the only X-Men returning. Reportedly, Halle Berry's Storm, James Marsden's Cyclops, and Famke Jensen's Jean Grey are also returning. I wonder if this will be flashbacks or them just going to actually time travel related or flashbacks. So, there are also... Go ahead.
20th of July.
Okay, so...
Or 20th, 21st, 23rd.
Just over a month away.
Yeah.
There are also two villains returning, one from Fox and the other from the MCU. I'm gonna guess Magneto, because there's been some rumblings about Magneto and Sir Ian McKellen coming back. So I wonder if
who's it going to be from the MCU though?
Could it be Loki? Because we know Loki's there's going to be ties to the TVA in this film. So unless they're going to do some kind of flashback, we get Thanos, or time travel.
Or it's Kang taking him into the TVA, like.
Yep. Yeah, so interesting to see what they do for the MCU villain, but I'm going to guess it's going to be Magneto. The other option for MCU could be the Scarlet Witch, because there's also news out there that Scarlet Witch will be referenced during the show. So it could be Scarlet Witch is the one also.
Okay.
It says, rumor Magneto's dark nature against those who threaten or hurt the ones he's close with is said to be heavily explored in Deadpool 3. That could also be, a clue about, Magneto returning if they go with that. Previous rumors have indicated that the version of Magneto that we'll see in the film would be inspired by the Ultimatum comic run. So there's even more stuff with that. It's leaning towards Magneto coming back. From the chat here, someone goes Thanos just for a Cable joke. Yeah, that'd be kind of funny having Cable and Thanos interact on screen together since they're both the same actor.
It would.
Zazie Betts has said she's not in Deadpool 3. She plays Domino in the second film. Well, I'm actually not in Deadpool 3, so I don't know what they're doing about, improvisation. I'm assuming they've probably taken a pause. I'm excited to watch it. So basically, she was doing like an improvisation saying that when she was talking about it. So she's denying it, but who knows? With any kind of flashback or time travel, they could still pull clips from the previous films of Deadpool and X-Men, that kind of stuff, and they could have some stuff from Deadpool 2 in the film. So
very cool.
Vision Quest, reportedly Vin and Vivian will make their debut.
Oh, okay.
In the Vision Quest series.
Wonder if he makes. Yeah, I wonder how that's going to come about. I wonder where he's going to get this family from.
What if somebody tries to replicate the Vision and makes him a family?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be kind of interesting.
What's the other doing as White Vision since he took it off? Maybe he created him.
Yeah,
maybe he missed. Maybe that part of the Vision missed having the boys, and out of that he created Viv and Vivian.
Maybe he's looking at life, trying to create life.
There's some Children's Crusade news. So it sounds like there might be a series coming about based on the Children's Crusade. Reportedly will be Billy's quest for his brother Tommy with help from an unlikely guide. I wonder if that guide is Agatha. I'm trying to think who else would be unlikely in that kind of story for them. or whatever the result of Agatha Coven of Chaos.
I did say a long time ago that I think we'll end up with a Children's Crusade project, whether that would be a series or a movie. Yeah, definitely before Secret Wars as well.
Yep.
That statue of Wiccan in the Scarlet Witch Temple is like all I can think of whenever I think of Wiccan, you know? Like, I feel like that was just such a weird little, like, sprinkle in there that's there for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
And in the main universe, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Daredevil Born Again news. Vincent D'Onofrio confirms that Daredevil remains in production. This was earlier in the week, or earlier before, but that's changed. He said, I wouldn't call it business as usual because we want to, well, I'll speak for myself. I want to be loyal to the writers and to the Teamsters. We've been told that the company is going to work through. Our writers are on strike, so we have no writers at the moment, but we have our scripts, so that's good. As long as we're doing it in a gracious way and everybody's in agreement that we can work when we're allowed to work, and we'll shut down when we should shut down. Out of respect for the Teamsters and the writers and such, then that's what we're going to do. And so far, so good. It's all been going well. He also tweeted that him and Charlie Cox plan to be at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con next month.
I like that they're not just shutting. They're shutting down almost in support and not necessarily out of necessity.
Yeah,
you know, so that's quite good.
He also mentioned Kingpin fighting Spider-Man in the MCU. There may be a sea of people between us right now, but I'm going to get you, mother effer. But now here's the latest news as of late this week. Production has shut down again as complications from the strike continue. Born Again was set to film earlier this week in New York at the Silver Cup East Studios location, which continues to be targeted by striking writers on the picket line. So right now, it has halted filming because of the strike towards the end of this week.
Because they do still have writers on set, don't they? So if there's any ad hoc writing that needs to be done or any things that need to be changed, I wonder whether that's why or whether it's because that's where they're picketing, where they're filming, or a bit of both.
I'll come back to Secret Invasion at the end of the news. Secret Wars. Sam Raimi is being considered to direct Secret Wars. So you know that we're going to get what's his name, Bruce Campbell, probably in the film.
Yeah,
yeah, that'll be the end credit scene.
Yeah, Pizza Papa always gets paid. There is some Madam Web news. It does sound like we have some confirmation on the character. So Sydney Sweeney is confirmed to be Julia Carpenter. We already knew that that Dakota Johnson is Cassandra Webb. Celeste O'Connor is Maddie Franklin. Isabel Merced is Anya Corazon. We knew Adam Scott was Ben Parker, and that Emma Roberts is Mary Parker. So there's kind of the big casting for that film. I wonder if we'll also get a trailer for that film at Comic-Con as well. Let me see from the news here. Darth Gorikhan's back. Welcome back.
Hey, how you doing?
Just got to throw it out there. Maybe while the writers ruining movies left and right are striking, they can hire people who have an eye for details. Well, the problem is though, to work for them, you have to be part of that guild though, or that's a union. So I don't know if they can hire people while they're on strike right now, unless you have people crossing the picket line type of thing going on. So
and these guys, these writers, and these the roadies and those kind of guys, they need to be paid what they should be paid, and they need to be used how they need to be used.
People who see plot holes and don't leave dumb writing mistakes in scripts. Well, he has some points here, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who are they, though?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Do we really need things like a Good Burger 2 or a Freaky Friday 2? Do we really need sequels to some of these movies that they're coming out with? I mean, it's just like them beating a horse that's been dead for years.
Or remaking The Color Purple. That original movie was great. Why touch it? But they're remaking that film, so they're making a musical.
What? They're making it a musical?
It sounds like it's a musical remake of it. Don't get me started, dude. Anyway, moving on. Agatha, reportedly filming has wrapped for Agatha Coven of Chaos. So looks like some things are still on schedule with some of these things wrapping. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur news. Season 2 is happening. Starting with the premiere episode, Edward James almost will guest star as Molecule Man. So
Yeah.
we got the Beyonder in season 1. Now we're getting Molecule Man in season 2, and I just love that show. If you haven't watched it, make sure you go and watch Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Let me see. Honestly, some things are better off without sequels. I agree with that too.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure,
Yep,
sure.
I agree with
Definitely.
that. The Marvels. Now Marvel Legends toy, I think, might have tipped the cap on her nickname for Monica Rambeau. It has Photon on the toy with the following description. Monica Rambeau's life changed forever at Westview, where her exposure to reality-altering energy imbued her with power to perceive and manipulate all energy along the magnetic spectrum. So, and it has her called Photon with that one, but also has Spectrum in there. So, Photon, Spectrum, is she
I
going to
like
be
the name Photon. I
Yeah,
hope
so
they
we'll see
stick
what
with that.
happens. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has crossed 800 million worldwide. So this probably is going to be a $1 billion movie.
Do you think?
I
It's going to make 200 mil?
I don't know, because I don't know.
It just
could still do
depends. If they like let it sit in theaters for like 3 more months, then yeah, I'm sure it'll probably make $1 billion. But like it doesn't. I think it's gonna probably stop around at least before it hits 900 million. But I feel like they're probably gonna leave it in theaters until it surpasses the second Guardians of the Galaxy, if I'm being honest. And it's about what, $50 million away.
Yeah.
So you know.
We have some El Muerto news. We thought this film was dead, but it's not.
Oh no.
It received a filming update on Film and Television Alliance website, FTIA. It lists a new start date as August 7th in Los Angeles for filming. So,
interesting.
Yep. We talked about Incredible Hulk. Release dates news.
Oh,
so
yes.
Marvel did a bunch of changes on the schedule this past week. Deadpool 3 is now May 3rd, 2024. Captain America Brave New World is now July 26, 2024. Thunderbolts is December 20th, 2024. Blade, this is an interesting date for Blade. February 14th, 2025. He does love vampires, so at least loves killing them. So that's why that's on Valentine's Day. Fantastic Four is now May 2nd, 2025. Avengers King Dynasty is now May 1st, 2026. So between Fantastic Four and King Dynasty, we're getting a year between those two movies. And then Secret Wars is May 7th, 2027, another year after that. So yeah, you're boom, boom, boom type of thing on there. Now, there are a pair of untitled Marvel Studios films originally dated July 25th, 2025 and November 7th, 2025. They're no longer on the schedule right now. And there's been no more news of Armor Wars either. So did they remove the date now for Armor Wars because of the writer's strike? Or is this something that overlooked? Now, John Cheadle, did say during the premiere when asked about it, he says it's going to happen on Armor Wars. So I'm not sure what that means with those being removed dates and what he's saying.
Maybe there's some ties to Armor Wars and Secret Invasion, and they're just like gonna see how Secret Invasion does, and then see how that sets up and lays into Armor Wars and how well it's received, and then they're gonna maybe figure out what they're going to do with that story.
Yeah, what type of project it should be, whether it should be, because I know they changed it from a show to a movie, or did they go the other way, or from a movie to a show? Or
I think it's a movie now.
Or yes, they went from a show to a movie, but we do have some 2026 dates. So 2025 dates got removed, but some 2026 dates still had 4 films on 2026. So could one of these be Armor Wars still? So we have the 13th of February 2026, untitled Marvel film. The King Dynasty is on May 1st that year. July 24th, there is an untitled Marvel film, and also on November 6th as well. So could Armor Wars be one of those dates right now? And they just haven't confirmed those dates yet.
I'd be surprised if there's 4 movies that year.
Yeah,
I really would.
Speaking of that comment, Darth Gorycorn agrees with you. Maybe to slow down the hero movie just a bit because a lot of people are feeling hero fatigue now, it seems. Because right now the Flash is not doing good, but I don't know if that's because of other things or the fatigue. But yeah, the Flash is not doing good right now. But also Elemental, which is not superhero at all, is not doing good either this weekend. So
I feel like you're going to notice that a lot of Warner Brothers movies for DC are not going to be doing well. This is a trend that's coming. So,
Darth Gorycorn also says some game. Go ahead.
Go on, Darren. Sorry, go on.
I'll say some can be good, but too much of one thing can be a bad thing in the end, which I agree.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that I don't know. It's not a trend all the way through, is it? Because we have seen some good some movies that have earned a lot of money over the last 6 months, 18 months. So it's not a trend across the board in cinema, is what I'm saying.
I think for myself, I've seen like a quality drop in a lot of superhero comic kind of based movies, and I think like kind of looking forward, I would like to see the quality better. So them kind of like shrinking back the number that they're going to make at least makes me feel slightly better that maybe we'll get some better stuff. But I'm just kind of like, with projects like Thunderbolts, I'm like, dude, do we really need a Thunderbolts project? Like, like it doesn't really seem like it's going to be something. It feels like it's kind of like a leftovers.
We didn't need a Black Widow project. Sorry.
But like, I love John Walker, but it just feels like, they could have done something different with Yelena, and they could have done something different with John Walker, and did we really need to see Red Guardian again in Thunderbolts? And, they could have probably just put Bucky in the Captain America movie coming out. And, I feel like we didn't really need to see Ghost again.
I mean, we could have seen Red Guardian and Ursa Major and a whole team in a film instead.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was a flashback film. I'd rather have seen that than Thunderbolts film. Or a modern day film of that.
I think it was a reaction to how well everything was doing at the time, wasn't it? Everything was doing great, and there was like, look, while everything's doing great, let's try and make loads of other movies that are going to make
iron's
loads
hot.
of money. Exactly, yeah. And then obviously COVID changed lots of things, and people, Disney Plus changed lots of things, and streaming just in general changed lots of things, and they can't. They can think they can predict stuff, but you can't really, can you?
Well, and I mean, if you make a movie like Spider-Man No Way Home, of course that movie's going to do well. Number one, yes. Spider-Man is like the most popular character in comics. So, like, of course that movie's going to do well. And the fact that it has 3 different Spider-Men in it is going to make it make $2 billion. I mean, that's just like, so I think, like, if you think with that kind of mindset that you're just going to make like a movie that's going to come out here and make billions of dollars, it's like, like maybe like we should focus on that. Movie was all for nostalgia for the fans. Like, as a longtime Spider-Man viewer, I got to see like all the Spider-Mans I've been watching as a kid, to now like be in a movie. It was just like, I was going to show up and watch that regardless of how good the story was. So
yeah, no, I see your point.
Speaking of other dates, there's an untitled Star Wars movie that moves to December 19th, 2025. Another one for Star Wars that moves to May 2nd, 2026. And then another untitled Star Wars movie to December 18th, 2026. Do you think that's the new trilogy they're talking about? Maybe those 3 films?
They seem like there was all, sorry, what were those dates? All 2026?
No, 2025, December 19th, May 2nd, 2026, and December 18th, 2026.
That's like a year to release 3 movies in a trilogy. It seems like a lot.
Or one could be like the Dave Filoni Star Wars film, and then the one, the Jedi early one they talked about, the First Jedi or something like that. Then the new one of the trilogy or something like that. Is what could be one of them.
That sounds more like it.
There are some Sony Marvel movie announcements. There is an untitled Sony Marvel project now dated for November 8th, 2024. Could this be Spider-Woman?
Seems early.
Because do we have dates yet for
Madam Web,
and for other dude, Kraven the Hunter?
Oh, Kraven.
I think Kraven comes out at the end of this year, doesn't it?
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought that was the plan.
I heard there's a trailer on the way.
Okay, so one of these could be Venom 3 then. There's also another untitled Sony Marvel movie that is now dated for June 27th, 2025. One of these has got to be Spider-Man 4. I think 2024, November 8th is too soon for that, so I'm betting that June 27th, 2025 is Spider-Man 4. Let me see what else here from Darth Orghorn. Oh, where'd it go? With George Lucas possibly buying back Star Wars, I do have hope for Star Wars. So
I had hope for Star Wars before that. I think Disney have done a great job. The latest trilogy wasn't the best, but I think pretty much everything else they've produced recently
the shows
have been really good. Rogue One, Andor, Mandalorian, Boba Fett was great. Ahsoka looks like it's going to be brilliant. So I've been quite pleased as a lifelong, watch Star Wars for 40 years. and I've been quite pleased with the Star Wars stuff that I've seen since.
We have some DC news next. James Gunn on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, who played Lex Luthor in Smallville and also has been in the Guardians trilogy.
He's also been a voice of the Flash and Kid Flash too. So
he said, I mean, the first DCU character for sure is Blue Beetle, and the first DCU movie is Superman, which I understand. So it sounds like the Blue Beetle movie is not DCU, but Blue Beetle will be in the new DCU, and the first DCU actual film is Superman, is what I'm taking from that. So that makes it sound like Flash and Aquaman are not DCU at all.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, like, we kind of expected that. I mean, this is supposed to be kind of like a different universe, like, after Aquaman, but they had already made Blue Beetle, they had already made Flash, and they had already made Aquaman, so it was kind of like, let's go ahead and get these out there and not, like, just throw these in the trash and go ahead and keep going, but I feel like we'll probably see Blue Beetle again in that Booster Gold show.
Yep, that makes sense.
Sense. That would probably be a great place for him to pop up. So,
hey, maybe he could pop up in Peacemaker.
Well, what's funny about that is like, so they're talking about how Superman Legacy is going to come out, and Peacemaker. I think James Gunn came out and said that like he's probably going to start working on season 2 of Peacemaker after he's finishes Superman Legacy. Yep. So like, what's really funny is Vigilante was like in a comic with Superman. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but like, I do have that comic, and I was like looking at it the other day, and I was like, that's really funny. Like, I wonder if we could somehow see like Vigilante from Peacemaker, like in the end of Superman Legacy, and that leads into Peacemaker or something, like be really interesting.
That'd be a great time to do it, because you got to bring Peacemaker and Waller and that kind of stuff into the new fold if you're going to keep making those shows.
Mm-hmm.
The Flash news, director Andy Muschietti, I'm sorry about his last name, on not recasting Ezra Miller if a sequel happens. If a sequel happens, yes, I don't think there's anyone that can play the character as well as they did. The other depictions of the character are great, but this particular vision of the character, they just excelled in doing it. And as you said, the two Barrys, it feels like a character that was made for them.
Yeah. They just need to go ahead and recast Ezra Miller. I mean,
his wife and co-producer on the film has said, in principal photography, Ezra was brilliant and the most committed and the most professional actor. Ezra gave everything for this role, physically, creatively, emotionally. They were absolutely supreme. Which he has played the Flash well in the films that I've seen him in. I have not seen the Flash yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to go see it. I might wait for it to come on digital, unless you guys want to do a show about it. I'll probably just wait. But yeah,
I'd probably like to go see it. Alex, I know you've seen it in the cinema. You saw it in the cinema? Yeah, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth seeing in the cinema? Do you know what I mean? Is it a cinema movie?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought it would be. So yeah, I'm gonna go.
I'll just I won't really give any spoilers or say anything about it. But as a Flash fan, I mean, Flash is one of my favorite characters. I went into this movie expecting sort of one thing. I sort of got what I was expecting, not exactly what I was expecting. So I'm not like let down. I'm not extremely happy either. But it was a good movie. But it was like, I mean, it was a solid movie. Like, it was like one of those things. I haven't really figured out how I feel about it just yet. I've been kind of like sitting here soaking in it for a few days, thinking about it over and over again. But I would have definitely done some things differently.
I think you do have to do that though with movies. I don't think I don't think you should trust, or not always. I don't think you should always trust your instant reaction to something, because sometimes, like what Jarian said today about Across the Spider-Verse, that the theme of the movie was a little bit more serious. I mean, I knew that. I'm not an idiot. I watched it as well, but actually, when somebody else says that, you're like, yeah, that's a good point, and that might be why there wasn't so many lyrics and songs within the thing, which was one of my gripes with it. So I could have instantly gone, actually, I really didn't like it because of X, Y, Z, and then somebody goes, well, actually, did you think of this, this, and this? And you're like, oh no, I didn't, and now I have. That's kind of changed my opinion on it a little bit. So I think you're right to digest it for a day or two, just to sort of see where the land lies for it. So yeah.
I mean, if my son wants to go see it, I'll go see it. I gave him the option on Friday because he said at one point he wants to see The Flash, and I was like, well, on Friday I'm like, we want to see The Flash or Transformers. He picked Transformers, so.
Solid choice.
Darth Gorycorn said again on here about the Peacemaker. Some comments here. I just hope they stay on track with Peacemaker. They did the first season right, but all it takes is one bad writer to ruin a show. But I do have hope, which I'm looking forward because I enjoyed Peacemaker, and I hope they can continue that story and stay on where they're at that level.
And the beauty with Peacemaker too is Peacemaker is like a character that has really barely any comic history. I mean, he's kind of gotten more in recent years than really anything. I mean, he's popped up in stuff like Crisis on Infinite Earths and stuff, but he's always just kind of like there. He's not really like somebody that's like, I think he's maybe led his own series with like maybe 5 issues or something like that one time. Like this is like the butterflies were completely made up in that show. Like most of that show is just like just putting together a story of however they want to put together a story. So there's really not a lot of comic basis in it other than like what he looks like, you know, in my opinion. But yeah, so.
Blue Beetle news. Becky G has joined the cast as the voice of Kajida. So looks like they're in post-production now, I believe, with that film. So
Which the Blue Beetle voice is something that kind of caught me off guard. I pictured like if you watch that Young Justice cartoon, I've always pictured that voice now is like what it would sound like, and it's like this like really evil, like it's like Venom almost the way it talks. It's like, you know, kill them now, like, you know, at all times. Like
it's like that Keith David type of voice, you know, that kind of exactly.
Yeah. So
Batman Brave and the Bold, Andy Muschietti to direct, Christina Hudson to write. It sounds like he's been the top choice all along, and early on there is no formal commitment. And you know, basically there was no formal commitment about the film until one materializes post-writer strike, but now it's confirmed that he will direct the film. Christina Hudson, who's writing, she was circling you know, the Brave and the Bold at one point. But she opted to write Fast 11 instead. But now it sounds like... So, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack here. So, she was rumored, reportedly, to write the film the entire time. But now she is not going to write the film. Andy Muschietti will direct. She chose to do Fast 11 instead, which is going to be the continuation of... I'll be quiet now. Anyway, no, it's been out far enough. If you've seen Fast X, it ends on a cliffhanger. Fast 11 is going to be a 2-part movie. It's basically their Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. Don't get me started in that film. I'm moving on quickly because I have very harsh thoughts about the Fast and Furious franchise, the way it's gone. But she's gonna write The Brave and the Bold. She was looking at doing it, but now she's writing Fast 11, which hopefully that is written better than Fast X was. But anyway, moving on to the Batman 2. Sorry, I'm not gonna get on a rant. Don't get me started on this.
I feel the same. I feel the same. So don't worry about it. It should have stopped at 6.
No, I'm glad the story keeps going. I'm just, you know, I wasn't happy with. I'm gonna go on a rant here. So I like binge watched the whole Fast and Furious franchise recently. Ended today with Tokyo Drift because that's kind of, you know, it was like the 3rd film. It kind of is like more like the 7th film if you look at it. I thought it was fine. I liked the way they brought in The Rock into the films.
Yep.
I like how they brought in Jason Statham in the films and the whole with Helen Mirren and his brother. I like those additions. Charlize Theron, I did not like. You know, Kurt Russell, kind of cool, being the CIA Darkseid dude, and then the one dude, I think it's Eastwood's son, is in the more recent ones. Yeah, those are okay. You know, the whole banter between the team, that's cool. The way they brought in Ramsey, you know, and made her a key component of the team, that's been pretty cool as well. Not a big fan of the Charlize Theron edition. When they brought in Mr. Peacemaker, John Cena. At first, I was like, okay. I didn't watch Fast 9 in the movie theater. I was like, okay, that looks kind of weird that they're bringing another Toretto in. There's been no talk of Toretto at all, a third Toretto. But I watched Fast 9, and I appreciate Fast 9 because Fast 9 filled in some pieces of the whole franchise, right? Especially when you go back to the original film, the Toretto family, and so forth. Still like Charlize Theron in that movie. You know, they brought some dead characters back, and that's been kind of cool. They've explained Letty's death. I'm not going to spoil Fast X, but you know, there's other things they've done too as well. That's fine. Jason Momoa bring him in, you know, I was like, I don't know. I watched the film the whole time. I was like, what is going on in this film? It was all over the place. So even some of the stunts, you know, they keep hinting at Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor. We all know what happened with Paul Walker. They've done some things where they've used his brother and done CGI. And the past two films, they keep hinting at Brian. You know, and if the family's okay with doing this, I'm fine. I feel like Fast 11 or Fast 12 was supposed to be the last film in the saga, that they're going to end up showing Brian back on screen again. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. It just seems like this movie did end on a huge cliffhanger. It was kind of like an Infinity War type ending with the snap in a way. It's going to be interesting how they bring this into Fast 11. And also, reportedly, they're going to bring another character back and do another solo film in between. I'm not going to say who because I'm not going to ruin the film. But yeah, I don't know. Fast X, I was like, it was all over the place. I'm sorry for the rant. I'm just like, what?
Beating that horse into the ground until there is nothing left. It sounds like, you know.
I know. Maybe Fast 11 they can redeem it. You know, this film. But I'm just like, what is going on here?
No, for me, it was in two good parts. You had the first three movies, which were car movies, basically. Mm-hmm. They were just. I mean, the first three movies. So the Fast and Furious. Too Fast and Furious, and then Tokyo Drift. They were car movies. Then you had the next three, which started going into a little bit of espionage. They got them to help do some things, rob some banks and take down some criminals, and that was all right. And then it just started getting ridiculous when it started becoming like James Bond. You know, it was just too much. I was like, hold on, these are just normal, car enthusiasts who have now become worldwide, spies. It was just too. It was set in reality. Like the first one was very real. Like you could see that happening, and then the second one you were like, okay, probably wouldn't happen, but it's still fairly real. Third one was still real, and then the fourth one, it just started getting a bit silly. And then all of a sudden, when you've got cars going into space, I'm out. Sorry.
Well, it gets kind of, I feel like those vibes of like, it's like Death Race now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that movie, like, it's just like every time you watch these, like I think a trailer for that new one with like helicopters or something, and Vin Diesel takes the two helicopters and smashes them together with his Dodge Charger. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay.
And there's some cool things like, I get this series has to evolve, technology, that kind of stuff. The government has kind of used them in some things, so they've had to evolve and that kind of stuff. And to kind of keep things interesting with what's going on with all the superhero films, I get it, right? Would that happen in real life? No, but I get it. I do like the evolvement of Tej, who is Ludacris's character in the series. I like that. What's his name? Tyrese. Every time I see him, I see Jody from a baby boy, and he still acts that way in films. This is the way he acts and stuff. The whole thing with the Dom's son and the baby with Elena, that kind of threw me off the timing wise. But I'm just like, okay, it's a movie. The one thing though, my biggest gripe with these whole films, this whole thing's about family, right? Right. The first film, Jesse died, right? That they brought back Vince. They brought Vince back, and he passed away. The one in Brazil, helping them. But where's Jesse been this whole? I'm sorry, not Jesse. Leon. Leon was in the first film. Yeah. We have not seen Leon since. Where is Leon? It's about family. Where's Leon?
He's just extended family. He doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope when they do wrap up with Fast 12, they do bring him back or have some kind of explanation, because basically it's like he doesn't exist at all after the first film. So there's my gripe. But
moving on.
They're entertaining films, but I'm just like, I usually enjoy them, have a good laugh, that kind of stuff. But Fast X the whole time, it's like, of all the ways you could have gone with the story, right? You made Momo the villain, and I like how you tied it into the Brazil one, but because that's in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. But I'm just like, you could have gone other ways with this, right? And like you had Carter, who was played by Cole Hauser, I think the actor's name is, in Too Fast, Too Furious. You're right. You had Eva Mendes show back up, in a Hobbs post trailer scene in one of the later films. So why don't they bring him back as another villain? Because he was alive. He said, I'll see you soon to Roman and to Brian. Why not make him a villain to come back? I don't know. Mm-hmm. They're entertaining villains. I'm going to watch Fast 11. I'm invested now. I want to know what happens after the cliffhanger in Fast X. I'm going to watch Fast 12 in that, but I'm moving on now. Anyways, I see Andy's like Jarian, stop.
I'm all right. Like I said, I was done with that. I mean, I have watched it. I've watched 7, 8, and 9, and I will watch 10 when it comes out on streaming. But I will watch it. But I was done after 7.
A couple things in the chat here from Darth Gory Corn. I'm completely with you on the Fast Furious thing. LOL. And he's like, they are reaching so incredibly hard. It's getting out of hand. The funny thing is, though, the last thing I'll say. This movie does very well internationally, right? Domestically, it's okay, but internationally, it does really well, and so I can see why they keep making the movies because it's a franchise, it's a hit. You know, who else can say they're going to be 12, 13? Well, actually, more than that. True. By the end, this is done because what you have Hobbs and Shaw movie, and then you're going to have basically 12 movies plus Tokyo Drift. So you're going to have like 13 to 15 movies by the time this saga is done, all interconnected in some way. So who else can say they did that kind of run in the theater? That's a great achievement when it's all said and done. So
and I saw this thing the other day, and they were talking about, I think until like Fast 8, maybe Fast 9, there actually hasn't been a drop in the box office for those movies. They've only gone up with every movie. And so it's kind of like when you just keep making movies that keep making more and more money, of course you're going to keep milking it, you know, like,
and this is kind of what we were saying about the MCU. It got the, Marvel movies and superhero movies in total, they kind of up to Endgame, it was like, wow, this is amazing. We're just earning more and more money. Let's just start making more and more projects. And then obviously things have changed. So,
but I'm not ragging on the series as a whole. The series as a whole is great. There's a couple last films, not so much, but I'm looking forward to Fast 11 because now I'm invested. So I want to see the actual end of this and what Fast 12 does, and then that other spinoff film they're talking about doing with another character. So we'll see. But again, great job on the whole franchise because again, 15 movies is a great achievement. I don't think anyone's done that before unless you go back to like the very early days, like the westerns and John Wayne type of thing. But they're not all interconnected with John Wayne, I don't think. Yeah. So, anyways, back to DC news. The Batman 2. Josh Hartnett and Joel Edgerton are rumored to be frontrunners for Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. So,
Harvey Dent, can we trust him?
Yep. But I do have some bad news on the Penguin series. It has paused production due to writer's strike. So right now that series is on hold. Superman Legacy model and actor Pearson Fody is up for the role of Kal-El. Emma Mackey, Rachel Brosnahan, and Phoebe Devanore are reportedly screen testing for the role of Lois Lane this upcoming week or around this time now. Sources added that some of the test deals are still being negotiated and haven't all closed, but that as of now are the name affected to participate in the in-person auditions. James Gunn on if Superman will sport the iconic yet controversial red trunks in Superman Legacy. He says, undecided, we are doing incredible amounts of concept art now with both, and we'll use whatever version looks best. For me, the most important aspects of the character go beyond trunks. Which is fun. Yeah, I think they have to get the grounded Earth type thing the most. They have to get the Clark Kent side the best, I think. Which the Smallville actor, not Smallville, Superman Lois, Tyler Pochin, I think his name is. Hecklin. He gets that great. You said before on here, Alex, he does get that. I have some news about them too as well coming up, by the way.
Okay.
But before I get to that one, Peacemaker news. James Gunn did write an update on Peacemaker Season 2. Alex said this before. It's coming back right after Superman. I will go straight from Superman Legacy into Peacemaker. Superman and Lois, they have been renewed for a 10-episode 4th season.
Yeah, cool.
So, is there news on right now, Alex? Do you know?
I'm so far behind on that, to be honest. Like, I think I'm somewhere back at the Bizarro stuff. That's like the last thing I remember.
Okay.
And I barely remember. I just remember seeing Bizarro. I don't remember seeing like the story with Bizarro. So I just remember it was Tyler Hecklin and it looked just like him. And I was like, huh.
Yep.
Like, so he played Bizarro and everything. So
let me check my CW app to see if anything new has come on for. I'll do that. So I'll look in a little bit. It's still loading up. Idris Elba is being eyed to play the villain in the new Rey Jedi Order movie. So it looks like he's coming to Star Wars.
Oh, nice.
He did great in Star Trek Beyond as the villain. Actually, he was pretty good. And he plays the villain roles pretty good. I've seen him like in other films where he's like been a bad guy. And he's done really well in those roles.
Man, he's just killing it. He's in DC movies, Marvel movies, Star Trek, Star Wars. Like wow.
He's such a cool actor though. I think he's got some good range, and I think he can play any role really. To be totally honest.
Great voice, iconic.
Superman Lois season 3 is actually on right now. It started on March 3rd of this year, so I need to get caught up on season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back to the news. Watch A Boy Become Superman. My Adventures with Superman premieres July 6th on Adult Swim. It will be on the Max app, which is HBO Max and Discovery app combined on the next day.
I'm so confused by this show because James Gunn said even like the animated shows were supposed to like tie in. So is this like somehow related to, the future Superman legacy, or I know he's talking about video games even tying in and stuff.
I have no clue because this was the first I've heard of this when I saw that trailer I shared to the page this week. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
I guess he's trying to do a bit of a Star Wars, because the entire Star Wars universe ties in with each other, whether it's games, whether it's animation, whether it's TV, whether it's live action, movies, features, they all tie in, they're all canon. So I guess that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. Pixar, they have laid off 75 people from their studio. So I want to, and also they just released Elemental as well, which is not doing well. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like going forward, or if they're trying to streamline things. Mad Max prequel Furiosa. We have some news on Chris Hemsworth, our beloved Thor. He will play a bearded biker warlord called Dementus. So, Legend of Zelda news. So there was an early rumor about Universal and Illumination are closing a deal to make it a movie, right? Legend of Zelda. But then Chris Dandry, the founder and CEO of Illumination and the producer of all of their films, he was asked about Link coming to the screen. He said, "I don't know where that came from. Legend of Zelda rumor. I mean, I can understand how people will surmise all sorts of things because obviously we've had a great experience working together. My relationship with Nintendo now includes being on their board of directors, so I can understand how people can summarize these things. But in terms of the specifics, that was just something that I've been hearing lots of rumors. This is just about what's next between Nintendo and Illumination. Now, him saying that does not mean Illumination is the studio doing it, though.
Yeah.
So they could work with another studio for this film. So that's interesting. But he's basically denying the rumor right now. Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Digital platforms July 11th. That's pretty quick turnaround because it just came out
last
weekend. That's like
July 11th. That's like
a
next
month.
week.
Yeah, that's like a 30-day window for it.
Yeah.
But hey, I enjoyed the film though. I enjoyed it. It was pretty cool. Even in the trailers, you see RC. RC has the classic cartoon look. Unicron, they did right. I just want to see other forms. The music, even. I hopefully at some point we see if they continue this franchise, which it seems like they will. Again, pay close attention to the ending. If they bring more Transformers in, I want to see Dinobots. I want to see the Junkions. The Junkions are my favorite from the cartoon movie. I want to see how they do that stuff as well. But yeah, go see it. But if you don't see it, July 11th, you can watch it on digital. Last thing before we get to Secret Invasion stuff, Mortal Kombat. Martin Ford will play the one and only Shao Kahn. Desmond Chiam will take the role of Keong Gerard, while Anatu Nujian and Damon Harriman are playing Sindel and Quan Chi. So it looks like they ran the cast out of the next film for the Mortal Kombat franchise. Let me back scroll here. Secret Invasion. So we're getting Secret Invasion, and so we have some news. Christopher McDonald, we all know as our beloved Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore, was cast in what has been described as a newly created Tucker Carlson-esque news anchor role. So basically, it sounds like he's going to be the J. Jonah Jameson of Secret Invasion, the one that we saw from No Way Home. He will most certainly stoke the flames of paranoia throughout this series. Will go by the name of Chris Stern, according to the filing at the U.S. Copyright Office. Some have also said it could be a play on Howard Stern as well. So maybe a shock jock, or he could be a Carlson Tucker.
Maybe he's like a competitor of J. Jonah Jameson. That would be really interesting.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
And they can have an Anchorman style fight.
Because J. Jonah Jameson's more like the Infowars type person in No Way Home, and he could be more of like that Fox News type.
Don't listen to that J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah.
You know, like that would be so awesome.
Or even some kind of big radio shock type of Howard Stern. I think that'd be in a better role if he was like a Howard Stern shock jock type of person. Doing like scroll bits on the airways like Howard Stern did some of his notorious bits. So earlier this week, we did get some Marvel Legends episodes released, 10 through 14. Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Talos, Everett Ross, and Rhodey. So if you haven't watched those yet, go watch them. I have not. I need to watch them.
I know that. I will be watching those. I love those episodes. They are brilliant.
I feel like that's huge that they put Rhodey in there. That means Rhodey's going to be a big part of this show. I mean,
well, he's been in all the trailers, so...
Yeah, I felt like he was going to be one of those that would be like one of the first people that would come to Nick Fury and be like, hey, Nick, you know, like you're kind of in a hard spot here. You need to just go ahead and like turn yourself in. I just happened to show up to be the first person to be the one that's kind of like... Almost
like in Falcon and Winter Soldier in that initial episode. Similar role. Yeah, where you saw him once and never again. Yeah.
Yeah. And him be like, you know, like I'm just the nice way of us showing up to try and take you into custody or something like that. Because I feel like Nick Fury is going to get put in a position where humans are going to think that he's at like to blame for this, and the Skrulls are going to think that he's the enemy, and he's going to be hated by...
Yeah, he's going to have nobody, yeah.
So, like, that's why he probably goes all over the world, because he's got nobody and nowhere to go, and it's just him, you know? So.
Yeah, I don't know. Rhodey gonna be a Skrull? Are we going to find out that Rhodey was a Skrull since Iron Man 2? You know?
So, I mean, like, I was thinking about this the other day. I would love for Rhodey to be switched out as a Skrull at the end of this series, not during or before, and then have this lead into Armor Wars and have part of Rhodey's mission, like there still be Skrulls, like he's a Super Skrull and Super Skrulls can't be identified by the tech or something like that identifies the Skrulls, and he leads into Armor Wars and wants to like basically start this whole like we need to build up, we need to do this, and this leads into them taking mutants for like, you know, trying to weaponize them for governments and stuff like that. And then they could do something eventually like Civil War 2 where it's Rhodey versus Carol Danvers, and Kamala is the center of that.
Yep,
and Kamala is like the first mutant, and Rhodey's like, we're going to need to take her into custody. And Carol Danvers is like, fat chance, like you're not taking her into custody. And that causes both sides to kind of like ram into each other. And yeah, I mean, Carol and Rhodey are both ex-military people, so they would be like from the same background, but would have different points of views, probably.
See, I agree on all of that, except for that I think that would send Rhodey on this terror of Armor Wars would be him coming back as himself and being a Skrull since Iron Man 2, because I think that would give him more incentive to go after all these things, but still, and he sees mutants as threats, like you said. Because the Skrulls were a threat, and I think that all the same stuff, but the opposite as far as the Skrull tie-in piece of that. Because I think him being like maybe a Skrull, I think Iron Man 2 will be the best way for the MCU to say he was a Skrull, since then because of the actor switch out, you know, and that could make some things, because I don't think he talks about much of their past after Iron Man 2, like their early days. I don't think they do, because we know in Iron Man 1 they touch on their early days, and we know that Skrulls can't make those memories like that. They don't have those past memories, so. It'll make sense then too, because again, they talked about some of the earlier stuff in Iron Man 1, but Iron Man 2 going forward, they don't talk much about their past together.
And Ross needs to be like president, and they need to have Rhodey as his
Secretary of State, or
his Department of Justice. Like, that would be
or
so
Joint
perfect.
Chiefs,
because then that would, if he was a Skrull, I mean, that would be a great position, like being like the head of the Department of Defense for the U.S. government. I mean, that's crazy. Like having somebody like a fox in the hen house in that situation would be mind blowing,
After that latest preview, though, with those 5 minutes that we saw with that code in the website, I no longer think Everett Ross is a Skrull. I think he's kind of out on mine. So I'm still thinking Maria Hill could be that long time. There's gonna be one person that's gonna be a long time MCU person that's gonna be a Skrull, and I still think that's Maria Hill. She would make the most sense if they do like a long time for shock type value. Would be Maria Hill.
Well, and she's been mostly like a background character. Like she's been in stuff like the Avengers movie, and she's popped up around Nick Fury, but we've really not known what she's been doing for most of like the MCU. She's just been kind of just out there doing stuff with S.H.I.E.L.D. So
also she was part of Stark Industries for a while too, for Age of Ultron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Work for
So
Stark as well as Shield, as well as the government. Yeah,
She would be a
Anyway.
prime person to be a Skrull.
yeah.
The other person who wouldn't shock me either would be Sharon Carter if we see her at all. Just the way that she's changed going into Falcon and Winter Soldier from we saw her last. You know, that change would be not a surprising one if she ended up being a Skrull.
Yeah,
As the power broker.
She kind of got chewed up and spit out after the Civil War movie, where like basically everybody kind of just like, we're like, you know, screw her, and she really had nowhere to go, and really, I guess she seems like she doesn't have any allegiance now, so you know, to anybody.
Yeah, she's been cut off, hasn't she?
A couple more things too from the news here. Director Ali Salim. When it ends, I hope you feel satisfied and complete. And as Marvel does so excellently, you'll also feel, oh, it could go in this direction. Nick Fury is alive and continues the battle. I don't think that's a spoiler alert. And there are some characters that are no longer with us, and some characters that live to see another challenge. I would love to see that challenge become season 2. So it does. So there you go. Nick Fury is not going to die in this series.
I like that. Though. I don't think this is a spoiler alert. I think it is. Unless the main character isn't going to die, that is pretty spoilery.
And he has that line in the trailer, and he's like, "One last fight." Like it makes you think he's going to die. Like. And
then there are some characters that are no longer with us, and so could we see Everett Ross die in this? In this one, you know, he's been there for a while. You know, I don't think Rhodey's going to be a death. Maria Hill possibly. Could we see Talos die in this film or in this series? I'm trying to think who else we could see that.
Talos would be a cheap one, wouldn't it? Though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Marvels takes place right after this, right?
Yep. November. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, like in timeline, it's supposed to take place post. Okay, because I feel like in the Marvels trailer, we see Nick Fury on the Sword Space Station.
Yeah. So having said that,
with Skrulls. Like walking around in the background.
Yeah, that's a good point. So having said that, it probably isn't, because we have already seen the
trailer,
the Marvels trailer, haven't we? So we do know that Fury actually, assuming that, like you said, the Marvels is set after Secret Invasion, it's not actually a spoiler. So that's actually a good point. It's not a spoiler, is it?
And then the last thing here from the news on this, Ben Mendelsohn on working with Marvel. The work with Marvel is the best experience I've had in my 40-year acting career. Working for Marvel is the shiznit. So
he's enjoyed himself, hasn't he?
Yeah. But that's all I have for news-wise. So as we're gonna have Secret Invasion first episode on Wednesday, you know, besides of who might be a Skrull and who might live or die, what do you guys think this series is gonna go?
I don't think it's gonna be anything like the event that we saw in the comics.
Nope.
And I don't think it's gonna be everyone's cup of tea either. But you know, I think it's going to be a slower paced, more
spy kind of thriller.
Yeah. Just I say a slower paced. I don't mean it like that, but like just a more thinking kind of man's game. This one, you know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is going to be more of a detective story for Nick Fury. You know, this is going to be like him figuring out all the pieces and putting them together. Nick Fury ultimately feels responsible for this. You know, Nick Fury was the one that kind of like, I guess, helped them kind of settle down here in the 90s in Captain Marvel. So he's going to feel like sort of responsible, I feel like, for this. And this is probably going to hit him a little bit harder than everybody else. And that's probably why Nick Fury is like, you know, I'm the one that needs to deal with this, because I'm the one that's probably to blame for this like Trojan horse that's happened with the Skrulls. And I feel like this first one, it's going to start off fast and hard. We're probably going to see like, you know, global destabilization, where the Skrulls start to destabilize nations around the world. And then after they start to destabilize nations around the world, they'll get those nations pitted against each other and fighting one another. And in that chaos is when the Skrulls will make themselves known and just go nuts. You know, I think we'll probably start to see maybe the destabilization in the first episode. And then, you know, we probably will just get the little tip of the iceberg of the Skrulls at the end.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see a great deal of Skrulls in this first episode. We'll just have hints that these things are happening and that something's happening.
So there's been some early reviews out. Apparently, people have seen the first 2 episodes. I'm going to warn you, it does start off a little bit slow before picking up at the end of the first episode and into the second episode. That's all I'll share in here because I don't want to say anything else in case people want to wait and see. But it does seem like it does start a little slow at first, then picks things up. I do feel like this show is going to be on the lines of the Captain America movies, Black Widow type movie, Agents of Shield ish, in the fact that it's going to be more of the spy side, not as much on the superhero side of things. Interesting enough, now on Marvel Unlimited, there is an 18 series new Secret Invasion run that you can read now. Who the main focus is Nick Fury and the Skrulls. So I'm gonna try to read that before I watch it on Wednesday to see if there's any tie-ins from this Infinity adaptation of Secret Invasion to this new one, because I do 100% agree with Andy. That original one, we saw everybody in here and the big players and stuff. I don't think we're going to see any of that. We might get some of the cartoon stuff in here where Maria Hill was a key player in the cartoons. I think it was Earth's Mightiest Heroes or Avengers Assemble. One of the two had an episode of Secret Invasion where we had the big hitters in it, but Maria Hill was one of the key people in that story. So I wonder if we're going to get more along those lines a little bit without the big hitters in the film.
Yeah, I'm keen to read that new Secret Invasion run as well. Actually, so it's 18 parts.
Yep, it's 18.
Wow.
It's 18 issues. I'm looking at it right now. Marvel Unlimited. It's 18 issues. It came out on June 15th on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, because it's been running, hasn't it, for quite a while.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna catch that as well.
Yeah, Thursday. I noticed that out there. I have it in my list.
I really enjoy in the trailer too that they throw in that line of like, where are your friends, talking about the Avengers and stuff, like where are they during this? And he's like, like I'm dealing with this. Like, this isn't like they're not getting involved in this one. And I kind of feel like, that's probably for the best. Like you said, like it's not going to be the same. We're not going to see a bunch of Avengers in this show. It's not going to happen.
Do you think that we could see a Monica Rambeau appearance in this film?
Yeah, I do.
To set up the tie to the Marvels, I think,
makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I mean, we've already seen her tie into the Skrulls already in WandaVision, and
But in WandaVision, though, was that confirmed that was a Skrull, though, the engineer?
Oh no! But she at the very end, she was asked to go into the theater, wasn't she?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Nick wants to see. He wants to see.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I also wonder too, though, if we will get any kind of for Talos' daughter that's played by
Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, Emilia Clarke. If that we'll see any kind of tie back to WandaVision of her being the engineer or any kind of hint of that, because it sounds like she might have been here on Earth for a while, and we know that they've known each other since kids, and that would make all the sense to make that tie together instead of being the throwaway type thing they did in WandaVision.
Could post-Secret Invasion be the reason why they're exploring the jump points outside of the Sword space station? Because maybe they're trying to figure out a place to send the Skrulls to that, get them their own place.
That could be
planet or something, It just seems like they're kind of like poking at the jump points a little bit, trying to figure out how to use them and how they operate. So, I mean, maybe that's the reason why.
It could be because at the end of this, we'll probably see the bad faction of Skrulls defeated in this series, or at least hinted at, kind of tying down, at least on Earth maybe, and that they need to start exploring other places to see where else they are, and that's where they're tying into the Marvels, that where they could do a season 2 to help find them a new home, because we know that their home was destroyed in Captain Marvel, and they were trying to find that, and that's why they were looking for the high-speed engine, which was a Space Stone, or the Tesseract. So yeah, that could be interesting too, and how this tie into season 2. But I definitely do think this will set up Armor Wars in a way that it looks like in the preview the president is shot down in the helicopter. So I wonder if the whole time the president was a Skrull, or in some point during this series he was switched out as a Skrull, and that Nick Fury identifies that and takes him out, and that's how we get Ross as the president. Yeah, it's like line of succession type thing.
Wouldn't it be interesting in Iron Man 3, like let's say Ross was DOD, right? In Iron Man 3. So we saw that vice president was like corrupt and was like working with extremists, and like let's assume that he's removed, he's found guilty, convicted, all that stuff. So then Ross moves up to vice president, and then the president dies or whatever. I mean, I guess that's so far back at this point, but I don't know exactly what year Iron Man 3 takes place, but you could have something very similar.
It was after Avengers. It was definitely after the Avengers movie.
Okay, yeah. So I was
going to say like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, 14, yeah.
So you could have like Ross like take over eventually as president and then run for 2 consecutive terms if he doesn't serve a full term and be president, essentially.
What position was he in Infinity War?
Secretary of State he was in for Civil War. And I think he might have been in the same position for Infinity War.
Okay, yeah, I guess he was Secretary of State. I mean, that's like the third in line for the president, like right behind the vice president. So
I believe so.
So that was 2018 then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's now 2025 in the MCU. So that's 7 years on. So 4 years.
But I mean, like technically speaking, I guess like who really knows? He could just he could just run straight up and just like make the funny thing is like Ross is gonna interestingly enough become the monster that he's hated all this time if he becomes the Hulk, because he's hated the Hulk. So maybe this is one of those things where he gets in the position, he's president now, and then he's about to die, and he's like, I can't give up this power. So then he
exactly lifetime measure.
And just to prolong his time in office,
Yeah, sure.
Do we think there'll be any surprise cameos in this show before we wrap up for today?
Well, we always say yes, and then we're always wrong. So I'm just going to say no. No, I think Rambo. I think Monica Rambeau might be a good one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid one. Honestly, maybe, and I think this is a big maybe Carol Danvers' appearance at the end of this. Like she shows up too late after Nick Fury's already won. And is like, hey, I'm here to help type of thing, and he's like, well, it's already been resolved, but, then maybe that leads into the Marvels or something,
Yeah, nice.
I'm going to go with Monica Rambeau, Sharon Carter, or not a Skrull, but the other...
a Kree.
A Kree, yes. A Kree appearance.
Yeah.
Like maybe like a scene about how the Skrulls came to Earth originally, like a flashback or something, or maybe just a talk of the Skrull Kree War. I almost combined.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I feel like the Kree are also in the Marvels too. It seems like, and they're gonna be like, I think the villain is probably gonna be like the
she's
the daughter.
Kree.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's maybe like the daughter of Ronan or something like that. So who knows? But like, yeah, I mean, like it seems like they're kind of setting this up for the human Kree Skrull kind of situation that's gonna happen.
Yeah, sure.
I would love for a post-credit scene of this show to just be Rhodey turning into a Skrull, and then him, or maybe Rhodey coming face to face with his Skrull person if he's a Skrull. Like him breaking out of where they're kept keeping him, and he comes face to face with himself, and the Skrull person is back into a Skrull, and that's all we see. And then that'd be like a huge cliffhanger. I would love to see at the end of the series as the closing credit scene.
So speaking of twist, I would love to see this end and everybody thinks that they've won, that the Skrulls are defeated, the evil faction of Skrulls, and then somebody like Rhodey walk into his house that's surrounded by security, turn back into a Skrull and be like, phase 1 is complete.
Oh, that would be great.
And just like everybody be like, wait, what? Like this was only part 1 of your plan? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that would be wild. And him talking to like Wernicke and that's Val or something like that. And that would just go, like
another good cameo, Val.
It'd be cool to see the Skrulls persuade the humans to kill somebody who they think they're persuading them to be a Skrull, but then replace them with a Skrull because they're saying that this is the real version. We're bringing the real version back. So like Rhodey, for example, like Rhodey is actually human. But Skrulls persuade Nick that Rhodey is a Skrull and that the real Rhodey is somewhere else. They kill the real Rhodey, but then a Skrull Rhodey comes in and goes, oh, thanks, Nick, you've saved me. And now he's kind of in, it's like a double cross sort of thing.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Right, let's wrap that up then, guys. We've done nearly 2 hours of chatting today. We've caught up for a couple of weeks missing. So, we can, anybody's listening to this one could split it into 2 hours and listen to 1 hour now and 1 hour next week. Jarian, where can I get us?
Yep, you can find us on YouTube, on Twitter. But if you're on Twitter, we can't see the chat. So make your way over to YouTube, to Twitch, to Trovo, the Facebook page, or join one of the Facebook groups. We're also going to have a new streaming destination here soon. I got to look into it. About it's like Kick streaming is another Twitch type one out there that will add that as well. And then of course we have our YouTube. Our Instagram page as well that we add stuff to also.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. It's good to get back on. And this time next week, we'll be talking about Secret Invasion episode 1. Can't wait. Take care, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Bye.